The Martian is a science fiction movie released in the second half of 2015 based on a novel by Andy Weir. It is the story of how an astronaut, Mark Watney, was accidentally left behind on the surface of Mars after a storm, with his colleagues thinking that he was dead. It was directed by Ridley Scott and the screenplay was by Drew Goddard. The film won many awards, including the Golden Globes, the Hugo, and the People's Choice Awards, and was also nominated for the BFTA. Here, we will take a glance at what it did right and, more importantly, what it did not do right. Before we jump into the science behind the story, we must first familiarize ourselves with at least a rough idea of the story itself, to bring those who have not watched it up to speed and also jog the memories of those who have. So without going into much detail and giving out too many spoilers ruining all the fun, let us talk about the gist of the story. So during a mission on Mars, a team of astronauts is hit by an unpredicted storm and results in aborting their mission and leave for Earth. During the evacuation, one of the crew members, Mark Watney, is hit by a projectile due to the storm and is thrown away. Now the crew is forced to leave him thinking he died due to the rupture in his space suit. However, Mark manages to survive and now has to find ingenious ways to make it till the next scheduled Mars mission 4 years later with the remaining meager supplies. Being a botanist, he manages to cultivate food and survives by scavenging parts of previous missions. NASA soon learns about him and attempts a daring and dangerous mission to bring him back. Now, will they succeed in bringing him back alive? And that forms the crux of the rest of the story. Although recent discoveries show that there is water on Mars in the form of permafrost and that Martian soil contains 5% water at low altitudes and up to 60% at the poles, Watney decides to synthesize water with the help of rocket fuel hydrazine. Hydrazine is basically H2NNH2, which is two amine groups bonded to each other. The following reaction takes place at 983 Kelvin. Now this is a net reaction. In fact, there are a couple of reactions taking place all together. And of course, he burns the hydrogen to get water. But of course, it is also true that burning hydrogen is dangerous. Of course, the first problem that we see with this factor is that Martian soil is not the same as the soil on Earth. For one, it's very fine. And secondly, the composition of Martian soil is much different than that of Earth. The mineral matter is low on essential nutrients for plants and also has significant amounts of perchlorates which are toxic to humans. Plants would either become toxic themselves or grow slower. Do we see Watney look like he was suffering from the effects of starvation or toxicity? We don't know. Another thing, the lack of nutrients can also be overcome with the use of additional manure or fertilizer, and human waste can work, but human waste when untreated also contains pathogens that can make you sick. But an argument can be made that you can't be sick from the pathogens you already have, hence Watney looks for his own waste. We also see him heat treating his potatoes, and this is a good way to reduce the risk of falling ill. Towards the end of the movie, Watney has to escape Mars's orbit in order to be reunited with the Hermes crew. His rocket is stripped down and barely counts as working, and he actually manages to pull it off. Now here's the question, is it actually possible? According to Robert Zubrin, the math checks out. The thin atmosphere of Mars provides an advantage here, as it is so thin that it requires a high enough acceleration to start burning up. Although the production of artificial gravity is a good touch that is accurate, the problem with the ship has to do with another factor, radiation. On Earth, we are protected from solar radiation by the atmosphere. But once we leave the planet and its protection, the ships need to be shielded. But from the picture, we see that there are glass windows. With our current technology, we cannot make such shielding work. And hence, this one is categorized as more as a fiction than that of science. Let us address the elephant in the room, the storm. Remember how we were harping on about the Martian atmosphere is rather thin? One of the implications of this fact is that storms in Mars are much weaker than in Earth. So what we see as a huge hurricane-like dust storm would feel like a breeze. Even if we granted the strength to break off the antenna, it is highly unlikely to cause the damage it did to Watney. Now that we think about it, the movie wouldn't be much of a movie if this didn't happen, right? After the main communications antenna is broken, Watney has to find another way to send messages back to the team or NASA. He decides to find the Mars Pathfinder probe and repair it, and then contact NASA via the hexadecimal system. The problem with this is that rovers can directly communicate with the Earth without the use of additional equipment. While it does add a lot of tension and plot to the story, it's not very scientifically accurate and doesn't really add up. Despite all these errors in the movie that were mentioned, it is a good starting point for anyone who wants to start exploring the fields of astronomy and space. Not to mention the things that it got right are done so well that perhaps we may overlook the inaccuracies. Not to mention these errors are only a factor with our current technology and knowledge. Maybe as time moves on and science and technology advances, they may not remain to be factually incorrect. Even for a person who isn't really science savvy or someone from the STEM field, there is a lot to enjoy. The plot is strong, the VFX when used is well done, and the story is compelling. Overall, definitely a movie that is a joy to watch about a planet that has captivated our imagination for such a long time. I thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the AtomsTalk YouTube channel in the bottom right hand corner, and I will see you in our next video. Take care.